welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Sociologist Bias. Before we get into the topic of this week, I just want to talk about some channel updates and some different things. Last week was my first video, and it's kind of still in the rough stages, you could say. I was able to purchase a mic to get some better sound quality here, and also bring up some mistakes that I made. I feel like you shouldn't be afraid to express yourself, and make mistakes. I feel like mistakes are what makes us, what makes us human. And over the quality over the time that I'm making this podcast, the quality will for sure go up. But for now, it's just kind of what the setup I'm dealt with and such. But definitely, keep staying tuned, for the awesome topics we're gonna be talking about this week. It's some a good topic, so stay tuned for that, as well as some spelling mistakes as well that I made. I was spelling lens as in Lense, which is not even a word. At least I don't think it is. Instead of lens, which is Lens. So I had to switch the channel name and such. And then I know like the first thumbnail for my podcast, it looked a little messed up because it was the social lens and Lnse. I was thinking about keeping it, but I was like, no. I mean, how can I be educated if I'm not? I'm misspelling this word into an important. I guess it's an important word. Social lens is a topic that is in sociology, and it is something that's major. But other now that we got that stuff out of the way, I just want to talk about this week's topic. So, as you know, I'm your host, Sociologist Bias, and I'm gonna talk about memes. Memes. I mean, come on, we've all been there. You send a meme to someone, and then you just kind of don't get the response that you want. It's something like it could be you can send the meme to just depending on the context and then the situation as well. Sometimes people just reply with an LOL, not even exclamation mark. You know what I mean? No reaction emoji. I hate that. Me personally, I mean, when I'm messaging people and then sending memes, if people don't even react to it, or even I mean, I don't mind the LMFAO or whatever, right? But sometimes people don't even react to them, or just kind of like, especially on Instagram, you should be sending reels and stuff, and people don't even react to them. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just like you don't think you're funny anymore. And I don't claim to be a funny guy, but I'm a goofy guy, as Morgan J would say. But at any moment, like once you send a meme, you kind of just feel like you've messed up. Either the meme didn't land, or worse, people just stop thinking you're funny. So you kind of out of yourself sometimes that you're not in the loop, especially nowadays. As we're growing up, us, now I'm currently 21, but I mean, I remember when I was in middle school, high school, I was, always in the loop with the memes and such. I mean, I think I still am. My friend Kai, he always says that I have a oh, I'm chronically online. He says I'm always chronically online. My friend Kai says, which is kind of true. But then, I mean, this new meme with the 6'7", 6'7", like I didn't know what that fully meant until someone told me about it. I saw it on TikTok. Actually, who told me? It was like this guy on TikTok, and he's pretty funny. He talks about these different what his students talk about, like in middle school, and it's pretty funny because you get this insight on like what they're what the students are talking about nowadays. And me wanting to be an educator in the future, it's interesting to see what these guys are talking about. So we're talking about memes now. Sometimes we see sociology every day, as always, and say, like I said, we're talking about memes, especially specifically the social science of sending the wrong meme. So there's actually science behind memes. Believe it or not, memes are uh, some kind of social currency, as we would call it in sociology. It might sound like trivial, but memes aren't just internet jokes. Memes are something more beyond than just the internet. I mean, memes have been around for a long time. I mean, I believe, or at least the first meme, I'm not too sure when it originated. I should have done a little bit more research on that, but at least when I was young, I mean, I saw, at least when I first saw me, it was back in 2012, 2013. When Facebook was starting picking up, and once Facebook started picking up, these memes started going out. Like ain't nobody got time for that. Like that meme, and the duck song, and all these other memes just started popping up, and that was just the time. The time of those memes was that time, and they're also they're just more than a meme. When you look at it, it's a type of archive that we keep. When you really look back at them, like how people have all these educational archives. Memes are a type of archive. That's why we have things like the Wayback Machine. To look at websites when they were before, before they were that domain. So we see like memes just kind of like evolutionize and kind of just become more than just the text on the picture. It's more than just that now. It's like the 6 7, it's the tung 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 sahur, like that stuff. Like it's crazy. That we I would have never imagined memes would evolve from the little baby with the fist to like tung 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 sahur or tra la, like this brain rot stuff now. But memes are a type of as we call it in sociology, is a social currency. They're markers of the ins and the outs of groups, and they can tell us a lot about our identity, our culture, and even our power dynamics. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to see how memes are around our society, as well as how we sociologists see them. How we see memes. A meme is a meme, right? You can just see it as a meme, but it's more than that. It's a type of culture capital, and I'll explain more of that in a minute. But it's also a way of symbolizing our communication. We call it symbolic communication, and sometimes an accidental act of deviance. We memes can be deviant, and I'll express myself more on that as well. Let's begin on memes as social currency. Social currency. Think memes as like a modern version of like inside jokes. You can send an inside meme to your friends. For example, I'll use my group chat in Instagram. We'd be sending reels and stuff, and only us can get these reels, for example. But another example too, like you have a friend, and you kind of send each other memes, and to your best friends or such, your group chats, like I was saying, and only you get these memes. You instantly get them. But and then you like you instantly get them. There you go. Sorry, my brain fart. But then you send it to your boss. Like, is your boss gonna understand tung 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 sahur? I don't think so. For example, even then, like if it's not your boss, you can send it to the wrong friend. You can send a meme to the wrong friend. They wouldn't understand this meme, because it's like outside of your group, your friend group or such. I'll explain that too later in a bit. But these memes, they can be risque. They don't carry as much meaning as they would between the person you shape them with. If you shape these memes with somebody, then these memes are more meaningful. More make more sense. When you send them to somebody else. Pierre Bourdieu, sorry, French name. Very hard to pronounce. But he coined this term culture capital, and he talked about how certain knowledge, behaviors, and cultural references give you social advantages. So if you're a very social person, and you are just out and about, you understand more about society, and you have more of a social advantage than you would. Going back to last week's episode, introverts and extroverts, you would have more of an advantage if you were an extrovert, or you're just more you can also be an introvert and you have more social knowledge with the internet, and that's when you have the memes come about. You're more knowledgeable with these memes, and you kind of send the right one, you can be more popular, you can be more funny, you can be more this and that. I remember in high school, memes were the thing. I was sending memes back and forth with people. That's how I was making some friends. Some people, they would add me on Instagram, and we would share reels and stuff, and it would be the most outrageous stuff, but it was stuff we understand, stuff we get, stuff that we are able to communicate. A lot of people communicate just with reels. That's our type of show, like I said, social currency. We communicate with these reels, with these memes, with these anything, and that's how we keep up to date. I have two group chats. Me and my friends are busy nowadays. We have all our things to do. We have our school, we have our jobs, we have things to worry about. Sometimes we barely get to talk, but sometimes we just send a reel and we kind of understand it, and we understand each other just by that, and know that we're doing good because we send a funny meme. We understand each other with this meme that we're sending. And in this meme culture, knowing the right meme for the right audience is like having the right slang or dress code in a certain social circle. If you have the right outfit, the right everything, it's like having the right meme. So if you have the right meme, you have the right outfit. You understand the social circle you're within. And I'll give you another example. We all have this. We have our certain memes that we would share with one group, they wouldn't share with another. I have that as well. I have my friends from my university that I've gone very close with the past couple years. From being in school with them. We have our own sort of knowledge, our own sort of our jokes. As well, us being like ex residents, or some of us being ex resident assistants. Having those inside jokes with that, and then all this other stuff. We understand each other. We understand these jokes. And these memes that we would say. But if I was to send that to my friends here from my hometown, they might not get it too much. So it's definitely knowing the right dress code or memes, to be in your social circle, as well as a form of digital culture capital. So culture capital, like we were saying, it's that certain knowledge, a certain behavior, and certain cultural references that give you those social advantages. So knowing what's trending, or what's outdated, knowing what's taboo can make or break your online presence. So another great example of this, seeing what's outdated and what's trending is just let's see, you're looking at TikTok, right? And you see what's trending this week. It's like showing up to the party with the perfect outfit. You want to see what's trending, you want to see what's funny, you want to know what to send to people. Is it 6'7", or is a tung 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 Zahor, or is it a green FN? Is it, which meme is the one that is gonna be the perfect fit for you? What is the perfect outfit for you to be in these social circles? But if you were to send a 2014 Doge meme in the big 25, then that's like wearing Crocs to a freaking the gala. I mean, unless you can make those work, and that's all you. You make it. A lot of people send memes unironically or whatever, and you can make that work. You can make that work. That's all. And the more power to you. Your social group is into those 2014 memes, and you're still sending those. I mean, unless I guess you're a boomer or like a millennial. I'm not sure, but people do notice if you were to send that in the big 25. So it's all about having that the rules and that meme etiquette. So whether we realize it or not, there are these unspoken rules, and for sharing memes. And yes, sociology can explain them. Sociology being the study of society and such, as you may know. If not, then now you do, as we explained in last week's episode. But yeah, like being able to know your audience. If you know your audience, memes work best. When the recipient is part of the same reference group. That symbolic interactionism. If they're part of the same reference group, they understand, where that reference is coming from. They understand, the value of the meme. If you're, like I said, going back to the friend group, you have a friend group, you send a meme, they reference that, the meme, if it's making fun or poking at something, they understand that meme now. Going back to then, you send it to a work, they might not get the same value, or the reference from that meme, because you send it in the work group chat, unless the coworkers you have are really chill. But then you have your boss in there and such, it might not be so chill if you're just making fun of them and such in that meme. But as well as, don't over meme. This is one important factor. If you're on TikTok, if you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, any type of social media platform, you want to make sure not to flood someone's DMs. With 12 reels in a row. This can shift you from a funny friend to a digital spammer. And I have no problem at all. If you want to send me spammy memes, go all ahead. But I know some people have that issue with them being able to, just spam them with memes the whole time, and they have and it's a problem. Especially if you have things to do. You got 9 to 5. You don't want to be spammed with memes the whole day, and or you say you're texting your honey or something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe she texted me back. No, she didn't, because your bro sent you 12 memes in a row. Like, come on, dog. Like, lay off the memes. Like, holy crap. But you also want to know about timing that matters. A meme about a viral moment loses its meaning once the moment passes. I mean, with the five big boom, 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 like that, the time's gone. They're, and I'm glad they're. I think they did a podcast. Where I'm glad they're known more now than the. They're known now more than just the Costco guys. They were the Costco guys for a bit, but now they're known more than that, because they knew the time passed. They knew that the meme was dead. They knew they had to adapt. So I'm glad they were able to do that. So making sure timing matters. Whenever you're sending a meme, a lot of these work group chats. I remember when I was part of these work group chats, the memes they would send. They would send like these like the Shaq shaking his elbows, and stuff, and all this other stuff. Like it just didn't work. It didn't work because it wasn't. I mean, it's funny and the good timing. That's why timing matters. But if you're like the one with Jonah Hill, he's like like it's just like some of these memes are just really outdated. And they're just they're made for like these work group chats because they're just not funny sometimes. They don't hit. So Herbert Bloomer, his theory talks about that meaning isn't in the object or the meme itself. It's created through interaction. A meme screenshot without context, probably meaningless, but in the right context between the right people, it's comedy gold. So keep that in mind. If you don't have the right context with the screenshot, you just send a screenshot with the meme, and it's probably meaningless. It doesn't matter if you think it's the funniest thing in the world. If they don't, your group, your social group doesn't understand it, it's not worth the time, and it's not worth the right context, or it's not worth in the right without the right context. There you go. But in the right context, that's when it's comedy gold. That's when it's worth so much. So imagine sending Bernie Sanders. I'm once asking again. That meme. And today, it's nostalgic, but to like the Gen Alpha, Gen Zers, some Gen Zer at least, that's like referencing the old sitcom that they never watch. It's like telling a person nowadays, like that Friends meme or something. They're not gonna understand it because it's not familiar to their time. And then the shared meaning isn't there anymore because that time's passed, the meaning's passed. Unless someone knows and was around for those memes, they're not understanding. Some of these newer generations, like Gen Alpha and some of the Gen Zers that were born later, they wouldn't understand some of these memes because they're like 5, 6, 7, or 5, 6, 7, 6, 7. Oh, hold up. They were 5 or 7. They were around. They were young. They don't understand unless they were understanding memes around that age. It's just not the best timing. The best timing matters as per se, as I was saying, as well as the sociology of the wrong memes. There is such thing as the wrong memes or the wrong timing. Going back to timing, I think timing is one of the most important things to at least learn from this podcast right now, from this topic, is the timing. But let's talk about when memes go wrong, because memes can go wrong, and trust me, there is a sociology term for that as well. In sociology, we call it deviance. It's any behavior that violates social norms. So think about that. When someone's being deviant, it's like you can think about criminal deviance, or you can think about just society deviance. Deviance doesn't always uh, resonate with criminal behavior, but deviance is that violation of those societal norms. So a wrong meme is a micro deviance when you look at it. It breaks the unspoken code of digital interaction. So there's a lot of memes that break the deviance barrier. Some bigger than others. I think some can be classified as that micro deviance, but there are some major deviants when looking at some of these memes. Sometimes it's a harmless and funny meme. Other times it's socially costly. You can send a dark humor meme to a coworker who's very literal. Now they think you're weird. If you send um a certain meme with not that I mean people meme this, but you send a certain meme with a funny man with a mustache, that might get you in trouble. You send it to your boss, or that might get you in trouble in general. That's a very you know funny man with mustache. That's very costly, very deviant in certain memes. But you send that into your right group, right social group that y'all have those dark humor connection, then that's comedy gold. Going back to that timing. But then you also drop a political meme into a group chat where everyone avoids politics. Instant awkward silence. I mean, that's another one too. The politics and such. You want to be careful with what memes you send. And what kind of memes you're sending to the people. You can have right wing friends. You can have left wing friends. You can have friends that are neutral. I like to think that I have both. But like for example, the thumbnail for this video is that JD Vance meme. And it's funny, JD Vance, this dude just like looks funny, it's nothing political about it. It's just that bro looks funny. So, it's that idea too of just like it's just a joke, and take it as a joke. Some people take it literally, which is another thing that's very bad in today's society. But if it's crossing a boundary, crossing that deviance, then yes, that's when it becomes an issue. But some of these memes don't really cross that issue or boundary, and that's when I feel like we should reconcile. We should come together and be like, hey, that meme wasn't that bad. That meme was pretty funny. So memes can rely on that cultural that cultural literacy. People, you know, the same meme can be hilarious in one subculture and offensive in another. So gotta keep that in mind. Cross those lines unintentionally, and you're now in the digital equivalent of the person who tells an inside joke to the wrong crowd. You have an inside joke. You're telling all these people. You're a comedian. You can go up to stage and start telling people all these inside jokes. Then what's the point of being a comedian? The people aren't gonna understand your comedy. You know, Memes are also the type of relationship maintenance. So going back to um, the idea that we exchange these memes to keep our relationships in maintenance, whether you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, um, friends from for many years, little years, that the meme that connects y'all, it's like a connection. It's electrical wiring, for example. There's that thing that puts the I forgot what it's called, but you put the electrical wires together, boom, that connection. So we have this theory in sociology called the social exchange theory. Relationships are maintained through these small acts of exchange. Memes are low effort but high reward exchange. So they require no effort. You send a meme to me, you send a meme to someone, that requires no effort. You press a button, you press two buttons. You press the button to send, and you press the button to click on who you want to send to, and you click send. Two buttons. That's all it takes. I mean, yeah, it takes, I guess, some time if you're like scrolling, looking for a meme to send. But most of the time, you're gonna have the right meme in your reels, in your ideas, in your area. So and these memes, they show, I thought of you. I thought of you as a person, as an individual. I thought of this meme would be funny for you, and without needing really a deep conversation, I send these memes because I care about people. For at least this is my point of view. Memes for me are a way of maintaining a relationship with friends, loved ones, anybody. That's a way of maintaining a relationship with somebody. And they show that I care about you. If I'm sending you memes, that means I care about you, and then at least also when people reply, it also shows that they care as well. Memes can act as this social glue, which is very important too. Social glue for long distance friendships or casual acquaintances. I have people that we consider each other friends, and we just send each other memes. You know, without we don't talk too much. Sometimes we'll be like, "Hey, how you doing?" But other than that, most of the time we just send meme. We have that connection. So for these long distance friendships, or recently graduating from college, I have friends from 8 hours away, 4 hours away, 3 hours away. I have friends from very long distances, or some are very long distance, like the 8 hour away one. We keep in touch because of the memes we send from their group chats and such. And yeah, we talk to each other in the group chats, but most of the time we're screwing around. We're messing around in the group chats, sending these memes constantly. I know a friend of mine, her name's Michelle. She's always sending these memes and in the group chat, and I always look at them. I think they're pretty funny what she sends. But it's that way for her, her that's her social glue. Being able to send these memes to the group chat and being able to stay in contact with us without even saying a word. She sometimes doesn't even say anything in the group chat, but that's the way we understand each other. Just that social glue. Friends, send you a random cat meme or a random meme at 2 a.m. No words, just a cat. You smile. Like I always smile. Like I love cats. I love these like little cat memes. That's why also in the thumbnail you can see one of the cats. The little with the pointing, laughing at you. That's hilarious. It makes sense. It's just funny. And that's one of those things that never goes out of style. Those cat memes. Those are timeless. Cat memes have been around since the golden age of memes, and they're still not going away. I mean, some memes are timeless. So also keep that in mind with some of these timing. There is a right timing, but some memes are timeless. So you can always send them no matter what. You know, um, and that's way of social bonding. Sending a cat meme at any time of the hour, or especially late at night. Because that means you're thinking about somebody. You just made this kind of tiny deposit into that friendship bank. Now you're filling up those all those social currency, boom, 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 and boom, you're full of money. You're full of or not money, but full of that bond. That bonding. You're feeling that bond. And that bond's always gonna stay at 100 if you just keep sending those memes. and you keep that glue with each other, you know. But then sometimes people use memes as placeholders, you know, sending them instead of genuine responses. Um, Over time, that can erode closeness. So, you know, if somebody says, "Hey, how you doing?" and you send a meme, that's a little different, you know, because you're responding with the meme. Like, it has nothing to do with the situation. If I'm saying how you doing, and you're not saying good, and you, like, you know, that's not really gonna work. Is that like I was saying here, you know, that closeness is gonna erode very fast. As well as looking at through it to a pop culture lens, you know, we look at TikTok and Instagram. You know, they accelerate these memes life cycles. You know, what's funny today might be cringe tomorrow. So, you know, you got to keep in the trends. You got to keep in all this stuff. You know, because everything constantly changes. It's like a moving gears. You know, life is a well geared machine. You know, we're all cogs in a machine. You know, we're all well maintained, or we keep it well maintained, and we keep society intact. You know, we're gonna keep the flow of information, everything going in society. So, you know, back in 2012 or whenever, you know, when Facebook and these memes were starting to at least popularize, because maybe memes were a thing before that, you know, with 4chan, all these forums and such. They really were able to. It wasn't that much because people didn't have a lot of like you know, with MySpace and stuff, and Facebook, and people had like friends and such, but not a lot of people were on the internet that day. You know, it was very hard to be on the internet on those early 2000s and such, because laptops and computers and phones, as at least smartphones, weren't really a thing too either. So, you know, but nowadays we're sending memes in and out, in and out. Like one meme is funny now, the other meme is not. That's why, you know, you see these meme calendars. Like in 2024, you know, we have this is the most popular meme of January. This is the most popular meme of February, so on and so forth. You know, so because there's a new meme every month, and there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of memes every day. Not every day, but every month, that get popularized, and just like that, the next meme is in, and now this other meme's out. You know, memes are also these time capsules as well. So, you know, years from now, we'll look back at 2020 quarantine memes and instantly remember that era. You know, like what was funny in 2020. You can look up 2020 memes, and there probably something will pop up, as well as what was funny in 2015. You know, if someone hasn't made that website, you know, someone should make that website where it's like memes in 2015. And it'll show up all these memes from 2015. A lot of people also make these nostalgic videos on TikTok or Instagram, and they make these nostalgic videos about saying, you know, I remember the good old days of 2015. A lot of people say, you know, 2016 was the best year of all time because, like, all these memes, you know, with Harambe and stuff, and, you know, and everything. Just people just credit 2016 being one of the best years uh, of their life. You know, maybe it's, I mean, it's more than just memes, at least, you know, saying that it's the best year of their life. But memes had a part of that. I remember a lot of people would share, like, the memes. And that is a meme within itself, you know, saying that 2016 was the best year of my life. And that is a meme within itself, because you're looking at all the stuff that made it, you know, special and such. And in the right context, in the right timing, that is a meme within itself. You know, memes are also these cultural artifacts, more than just time capsules, but cultural artifacts, you know, of this internet age that we're in now. Just like old political cartoons tell us about the 1800s and such, memes will tell us the future historians about us. You know, about what we did. You know, what we accomplished or what we didn't accomplish. At least with this brain rot stuff. You know, so it's very interesting. You know, just how memes have been able to evolutionize. You know, throughout the years. You know, from cat memes to the piano playing the cat, you know, chocolate rain. There's a lot of the earlier ones, you know, and then we got um, at least, and then we got the dank memes. Oh my gosh, dank memes. And that was that's why 2016 was a great year. Dank memes and all these other memes. You know, I appreciate a good dank meme. I don't think dank memes got a good, at least I don't think they had a good reputation. I mean, for me, they did, but you know, at least at the time they were coming out, once, you know, dank memes were out of style, people started loving them again. It's like the Star Wars movies, for example. You know, if people didn't like the Star Wars movies, at least the pre the first three, basically the first three episodes. People don't like those, but then as time went by, people loved them. That's the same thing with memes from the dank era. You know, people didn't like them, but now all of a sudden, you know, people are like, oh, I miss the dank memes and that, like that. You know, with all the people, at least I remember dank memes were a bunch of like edge lords and stuff, and just Oh man, it was just good times with back in the day with these memes. And things to keep in mind is just, memes might just look like silly little pictures or videos with text, but they're doing serious social work when you think about it. They communicate identity, it communicates more about yourself than you think. They signal belonging, they make you feel belonging within a group. They manage these relationships. That's one of the most important things, at least I picked up from this research I was doing, and then just being able to socialize and within ourselves, is that being able to maintain those relationships just with memes. Like, that is powerful stuff. It's more than just, sending a text saying how you doing, but sending a meme and just being able to kind of pick up where you left off. It's beautiful. It's low maintenance, high or low, yeah, low, not low maintenance, low effort but high reward. You know, and yes, sending the wrong meme can be that tiny act of social deviance, or that high act, just depending on the type of meme you send. I know some people are sending some horrendous memes, especially on TikTok. I mean, I know y'all been on TikTok comment sections. Those things are horrendous. The pictures and memes they put posting in these comments is, I mean, I need to bleach my eyes sometimes when I'm when I go in them. Especially, I saw a TikTok recently where it's like TikTok looking at like the freaking comments, and like, they have their eyes closed and like not looking, and then I open the comments seeing like, oh, people are probably gonna make fun of me, but people are posting the most horrendous stuff, and then TikTok doesn't do anything about it. So that's pretty funny. And that's, I guess, another meme within itself. And that's in the meme sections as well. I want to talk about that a little bit. It's a meme within a meme. That's possible. And it's that one's also that one's when you start thinking philosophically, the meme within the meme. But that's just something to think about as well. But I think the most important thing, at least to take away from this podcast, is that way to manage those relationships, signal that belonging, and communicate your identity. And also think about when you think about sending a wrong meme, think about the timing, think about the context, think about everything. Just make sure you send the right meme at the right time and everything. So I challenge you to do this, and leave the comments below. Send me a DM on my socials. I'll put that in the description below. Next time you send a meme, think about it like a sociologist. I give y'all a little sociologist pass. You think about it like a sociologist. Think about who's your audience. So think of who you're sending it to: your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss. And what's the cultural meeting? And will it land or will it flop? So, send it to me. Send me the meme, and I'll be your audience. I'll be whoever you're gonna be sending it to. I'll be your boss. I'll be your friend. I'll be your coworker. I'll be able to analyze it like that. And what's the cultural meaning behind it? See if it's the right meme to send or if it's not. And will it land or will it flop? What will it do? Just keep that in mind as well. Just leave in the comments below if you do that, or if as well as leave it. Send me a private DM and Instagram on my socials. But that's it for this episode. Catch us the next week when we talk about social media. So we'll be going into depth of like social media and its how it plays a big role in sociology and our society every day. Because social media is something we do every day. I mean, some people don't have social media, but it's a great bridge from memes to go into social media. So stay tuned for that. I'll see y'all later. And like always, have a great rest of your day, or night, or week, or month, or year. Just have a great day.